For this model review, I'm going to be reviewing two models, the Steelhead Ironhead Mercenary Solo and the character Light Warjack Scallywag, which is Shay's character Jack. These were given to me as a gift, not a gift really, as a prize, and I won on Riker's Iron's channel as part of one of his Mega Swag giveaways. He asked me what I wanted, and I said just pick something from the newer Mercenary releases, and he picked these, and I'm really happy. So, going to give the models a little look over, look at the quality and detail of the sculpts, anything that I think's particularly interesting, what hobby challenges there might be in preparing or assembling them, and possible implications for painting that might have. And we'll just go from there. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll start with the Steelhead Ironhead, which I have right here. So one instantly noticeable thing compared to what a lot of people will have seen is mine's metal, and that's because I'm over in the UK. So one of the big differences is a lot of the models which are in large part resin, we get in metal instead. I have had ones that have been miscast in the past. Hopefully that is not the case here. So we'll start with looking at the main body itself. So when I first saw the concept art for this model, I was extremely excited. It had the open canopy, a bit like the Bombshell Bombardier, and that looked really cool. They did explain that they couldn't do that for logistical reasons. It would add too many parts and up the cost. So I'm glad that they didn't, because I'd rather have an affordable Solo that looks good rather than a stunning but unaffordable, especially seeing as it's field allowance 2, so you can have 2 of these in your army. So first off, there's some really nice detailing in the hip area of all the various pipes and hydraulics that are powering this thing's body. So there's a little bit, if I can get the camera to focus, it's such a fine mould line. Just down here, down the leg. Just a fine mould line. Nothing that a couple of seconds of filing won't deal with. All that piping detail goes around to the back to the boiler. So in the Iron Kingdoms RPG, you can actually have Ironhead as a character class. It was available in one of the no quarters, and I always quite liked it because it's quite a kind of unique one, because in it the operator of the suit makes and repairs their own suit because they are mechanics. So you should be able to see there is a bit of the mould line running down this shoulder ball up onto the hose just here. It's very slight, and again it runs up here as well, up onto the smokestack. Very small though. And again on this shoulder, the same thing, just a very, very slight one. Such a small model line, it's probably about a minute's worth of work on the whole model, I should imagine. And then tiny little bits of flashing that just fall off just like that. So that's the body, the hammer. So this kind of reminds me of Darius's hammer, which I replaced because he had the exact same hammer as an ironclad, but his was a lot smaller because he was made back when the metal ironclads were smaller. So I replaced his with a plastic ironclad hammer. So you should be able to see there's quite a pronounced mould line on the top of the hammer that runs through all of the details. That will take a little bit longer to file out, but again, not too bad. The most important part are the fingers. They're all very distinct. There they are. And the thumb gripping around on this side. And the clamp. Now this clamp is noticeably bigger than the hammer arm, which gives the model quite a nice asymmetrical look, I think. And then the last piece is a piece of hose piping, and this is meant to connect between the boiler and the clamp. Oh, I see Riker's Irons in the chat. Nice to see Riker. So one of the things I really like about this model, having looked at it for a couple of seconds before going live, is that the plugs are both rounded. There's no key telling me how it should or shouldn't go, which gives you quite a flexibility in posing the thing. And the same applies for the hammer arm as well. It's just round plugs, so you can have the hammer really up high, you can have it a bit wider out. I'm not sure if... No, it's a bit squiffy to have it down like that. But it could be quite easily reposed the hammer at the wrist. You could cut and repose there. Seeing as this is my first one, I'm okay with this being in stock pose. If I end up picking up a second of these, there will be conversion involved, because I very much dislike having clones in my armies if I can avoid it. So a second one of these would definitely be converted. So I'm going to say that this model is pretty damn exceptional. I really like it. It's characterful, but not too characterful in the fact that the faceplate is it's fairly neutral, but that allows it to be a non-character model, which I quite like. Alrighty, so the next one is in quite a few more pieces. This is Scallywag, which is Shay's character warjack. Comes in quite a few pieces. I'm going to try my best to get it in the right order. I did have a little brief look to make sure it's all there, and it is, which is always nice. So Shay is currently sat here. He's work in progress as a painted model. He's getting there. I do need to finish him, but I'm working on my alternative casters at the minute, so let's look at Scallywag. So we'll go straight for the main piece, the body. Now, this is based on the same chassis that a Buccaneer is based off, and now I think, what's the name of it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the new non-character one with the sword. It might come to me, it might not. But anyway, the chassis is exactly the same, which is good continuity. This is obviously made in resin, which means it's a lot lighter. The detail on these rivets is very, very impressive. The Buccaneers that I have, I think the molds might have been quite old, so some of these rivets had kind of like a trailing off, kind of like a little V shape of metal after each one, so I had to clean them up. But none of that here. It's all very crisp and clear. There are these two resin plugs on the bottom, so if I can just get that to focus in. So this one here, and then this one it's just this rectangular one there, which will have to be taken back to the same point as these grill bits here. There we go. And that's no big problem. This resin, I've worked with it before. It cuts quite easily with a sharp craft knife. The detail on the boiler with the piping is really nice and fine. Although, as I'm holding it here, you can see mold line running up through the boiler and up through the stack just there. But it is quite a slight one. And you can see it there running through all the way through to the tip of the smokestack. And yeah, it's running through here as well. That little bit there is a little bit worse, but it's on the back of the model. Quite easily shave that flat. So overall, the torso, beautiful. Really like it. The legs, I'm not sure if there's any distinct differences between these legs and the legs of a regular buccaneer. I could try and grab a buccaneer, but I think they're all packed away in my case because I'm currently using them. So very slight mold line straight down the whole leg of the whole leg, and up this side as well. Very, very fileable. And on this side there's a bit of extra flashing that comes off quite easily. Okay, so the mold line's a little bit more pronounced on this one. You can see in there on that shin piece. It's a little bit more pronounced. But that's only a couple of seconds extra filing. Thankfully, it's not bad on the ribbed hosing. I mean, you can see it a little bit there on the inside, but when you get bad mold lines on ribbed detailing like that, it can be a bit of a pain. This is the hip and piston piece, connects the legs to the body. This is slightly different from the metal old Buccaneer model, which this would be one piece, and then the legs would go on. So that's a slight difference. I can see myself drilling a pinhole straight through the hip to have one pin connect both legs, because these are quite spindly legs and I wouldn't want them to repeatedly break off. Which is another reason why I'm glad that the main bulk of the body is resin, because it will be lighter on the top of those legs. So this is the right arm. Interestingly, they've decided to make the arms and the hands two separate pieces. So that's the left arm, sorry, the right arm, which is just the axe. So this one does have a mold line running all the way down the ball socket, as you can see there. By the way, this bit here is not the mold line. This is where it plugs into the main body. The mold line I'm referring to is really hard to see. And it's that hard to see, it's fairly irrelevant. And then you have the axe and forearm for this one. I must say this armour on this forearm very much reminds me of Protectorate light warjacks, so maybe they scavenged up the armour plating for it. Nice clean piece on this one. Very slight mould lining. It's even got the hollow eyelet at the bottom of the weapon, which is nice and clear. So the arm on the other side, big piece of flashing on there, breaks off quite easily. There's a bit of clean up on the inside of that ball. That will need scraping away, but it's going to be plugged inside the Warjack's chassis, so no one's going to see it. And then this is a bit of a weird weapon. It's part gun, half axe, half murder robot craziness. It's a pretty big beefy gun. I mean, if I just get Shay back in for comparison, this gun is about, I don't know, it must be about 4.5 feet tall if it was real. It's a pretty big gun to just be casually used as an axe handle. I like it. It's a bit wacky, especially seeing as they've actually modelled the Warjack's finger going through the trigger. Like most most Warjack's ranged weapons are kind of linked via like cabling to fire it that way, or they have some kind of internal trigger mechanism that you don't get to see. But this one physically has a trigger guard and a trigger, so I love it. It's crazy. This piece confused me a little bit at first, but I looked at the picture online. By the way, that's just on a tangent. If you ever end up a little bit confused, Privateer Press generally has 360 spins of most of their models. And this little bit here pops on the top of the chassis, and that symbol on it, the skull with kind of compass point arrows pointing off of it, is the Talion logo for the Talion charter that he belongs to. So that's pretty cool. And then this is his little head. As you can see there, it's got a kind of little skull face look to him. Looks very mean and vicious, which belies his cutesy name of Scallywag. I don't know if Scallywag has the same like connotations overseas as it does here in the UK, but you might call somebody a little scallywag if they're just a bit of a little rogue, you know. That's the Italian Charter logo, by the way. I picked up this pin the other day, so that's it blown up. That's it very, very small. Alrighty. So this model I will be pinning extensively, I believe, because like the arm pieces to the wrist guards, they're going to need pinning. Well, they don't need pinning because they've got these little plugs. I think that most hobbyists would be fine with just using the plugs. I am a bit, not obsessive, just wary. I don't like having to re-glue things if they break, so I just pin from the very beginning these days. It saves me a lot of work in the long run. So what I will do is I will drill and pin all of this to make sure once I put it together it never comes apart again, which is exactly what I like, really. I don't like my models breaking. So Scallywag, I'd say, is a pretty damn awesome looking model. I'm looking forward to painting him up. I don't know what colour scheme I'm going to go with yet. Might try and match him towards Shay, seeing as he's his character Jack. Yeah, so that's my look at the Steelhead Ironhead and the Scallywag Light character Warjack. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found the looks at these helpful. These are field allowance 2, so you can have 2 of these in any mercenary army, or you can bring usually 1 mercenary solo. I'm not sure how viable bringing one of these in a non-mercenary army would be, but I haven't fully explored that, seeing as I've only just got one. One of the things that I'm most excited about this Ironhead for is the Iron Kingdoms RPG. I think this model is ripe for conversions, and I'm really looking forward to the possibilities of that, because the way it's been built, you can really plug and play. Like if you wanted to, you could go with an Ironhead with more of a ranged focus, so you could remove this clamp and turn this arm into a big cannon. This hammer could be replaced with nearly any weapon, really. You could give him a great axe, a sword, whatever you wanted. I mean, you could make him pure support and give him a great big wrench, make him a little bit more like a non-character Darius from Signar. The possibilities are nearly endless. The only thing that's a little bit sad for me personally is because I'm in the UK, this is metal, so it's harder for me to cut and repose the main body. But these things happen. We just have to work with what we have. Anyway, really pleased with these. Looking forward to getting them together and getting them painted. That's the end of the review now. Somebody said, I heard Haley 1 sucks. Is that true? Haley 1 sucks the will to live out of your opponents because she's that good.